Hi, welcome back everyone. My name's Newman and today we're going to talk about Calatheas, so stay tuned. Hi, today's subject is Calatheas. So Calatheas are part of the Marentaceae prayer plants family. And there are about 200 species, and they come from tropical Americas. And during the night, the leaves typically fold up, as you know. They do this, and in the morning they unfurl in search of light in the morning, and that's known as nictinancy. And it's made possible by a small joint in the leaf axis, which is between the leaf and the stem, and that's called the pulvinus. So it's very flexible. And anyway, we're going to break this into a few parts. So we're going to talk about the first thing we're going to talk about is watering. So here we have my Calathea barrel marks. Now, the first part about watering is that I adjust my pH. So I use white vinegar and I put a little bit in, and then you should use a pH reading or tester to test the pH of the water that you have from your faucet or your tap, city water. If it's 7 or over, the best thing to do is to put a filter. Is to filter your water through your tap. You can buy filters that attach to your tap, or the next thing is you can add white vinegar. And the best thing to do is to buy a pH reader, so that while you add the white vinegar, which is a little amounts at a time, you can read how much the pH is, and you want it to get down to about 6 or 5.5. And generally, if I was to have a bottle about this size, which is about 2 liters, I would probably put a tablespoon of white vinegar in there, and that would bring the pH to around about 6. But once again, you want to use a pH reader, which have the prongs on it, and they're very cheap. You can buy them on Amazon. Another thing you can do is to, of course, when you use city water, you can leave the lid off it and let it sit for a couple of days, and that'll all the kind of calcium and fluoride and stuff like that will dissipate, so it'll be much more neutral rather than too alkaline, which plants don't like, really. Well, these plants don't like alkaline so much. They like it a bit acidic, which is 5.5 to 6 on the pH readout. A lot of you may think that that's not important, but it is for the soil, because a lot of soil microbes thrive with that pH, and it helps to also make a lot of minerals and vitamins in the soil available to the plant. One other thing you can do is to add green tea bags. You can soak them in the water, and they can add a few other trace elements like magnesium and calcium in small amounts. And I think I said there was calcium in the tap water. Didn't mean to say that. I mean fluoride. Yeah, so there's beneficial minerals in green tea, and it's very natural, because if you think about plants, they grow underneath the canopy of trees, and when it rains, all the water goes through the leaves, and as it's dripping and making its way down to the forest floor, it picks up a lot of minerals as it trickles down, so that's what you're trying to imitate there. As far as watering goes, you should keep them slightly moist. Never let them dry out completely, and give them a good watering. So you give them a good watering, and then you let the tray fill up with water. Probably let it sit in there for about 20 minutes after you've top watered it, and then tip all the excess out. And that should be done every week or so. And you should just get your finger and just stick it into the soil. And if it still feels moist, you don't need to water it. If the top layer is starting to get a little bit dry, it's time to water. They like to be more on the moist side than to be too dry. That's for sure. Okay, stay tuned for part 2. Okay, now we're going to talk about light. Okay, so for a Calathea bell marks, which I have here, the optimum or best lighting situation is to sit them by an east or west window. If you live in the northern hemisphere, the south is where the sun shines the most, or you get the most sunshine. So I want to keep it right well away from those windows. A north window, which is the least light, is absolutely fine for a Calathea. And the reason why is that they don't like any direct sun whatsoever on their leaves. They want to be just in bright light, but they don't want direct sun on their foliage. That would just cause burning. They live in a very dense, low light situation where they come from in the jungle. Yes, and if you're worried about excess light, you can put netting on your window, which I've done. I'll show you later. I'll show you where the plants are situated later. And as you can see here, you've got the growth on the plant is, you can see how very nice and well developed that is. Along with your light, we talk about temperature. This barrel marks has been putting out a lot of growth. Believe it or not, the temperature in the room is around 50 to 55 Fahrenheit, which is 10 to 13 degrees. And which leads me to believe that this is a cool growing tropical plant. So you want to keep it as cool as you can. I would think when it gets to about 70, 75 Fahrenheit, which is about 20, 25 degrees, at that time it'll do fine, it'll still put out growth. You want to avoid temperatures that can go over 30 if you can. We're talking about into the 90s, close to 90 Fahrenheit or over. At that time, if you're having a struggle trying to reduce the heat in your house, I would suggest putting in an oscillating fan, and you just set the timer on it so it keeps the air moving, and every morning and evening just open the window and let you get a good air exchange in the room. You don't need to do that all day long, but just for an hour or something once a day, let the air get exchanged in the room. And unfortunately, you cannot always avoid this. You can see here that this is heat stress. This is not from overwatering or underwatering. This is stress from last year and the heat. And so you can see it here. Also, when it gets very, very hot, as I said, when temperatures get too hot for it, not only does it show the stress by browning or dying on the leaf tips, it also gets this speckling too. And it is also another problem that once the plant is too overheated, so we're talking about those high temperatures that I just mentioned, it makes it harder for the plant to take up water because it's too stressed, and it's much more difficult for it to do photosynthesis and also to take up water and do transpiration and all of that kind of stuff. It makes it much harder for it. So I suggest if you cannot avoid the heat too much, in that case, you are just going to have to bear with this kind of damage during those hottest times of the year. You want to try putting your Calathea on a tray of marbles with a little water in it, so it keeps humid at the bottom. But don't make the mistake of overwatering it, because you see that it's getting brown tips. Oh no, I gotta water it more, and then you give it more and more, and then you rot it. Because it also needs to have a break. You know, you give it a good water, and you got to let it have a chance to drink up that water first before you give it another water, so that it gets a fresh supply of oxygen when you water it next time to go into its root system. Anyway, look at that. Let me see right here. Remove those leaves. Look, two new leaves coming up there. Stay tuned for the next part. Next, we're going to talk about the placement, or where to put them. So here we have a Calathea makoyana, and what do you think? Now, I had no idea what exactly Calathea is like, or where they like to be placed. This is just a learning process for me too. Look at that leaf, magnificent. A lot of people actually, when they see this, they think it's made of plastic. They can't believe that it's actually alive. Whether that's a compliment or not, I don't know. But for me, I kind of think of that as a compliment, because I will ask them, well, what do you think it's plastic? And they'll say to me, well, they can't be real. It's too magnificent, too beautiful, too unusual. And it's kind of a compliment, isn't it, about your plant? And you can say to them, this is not plastic, this is real. This is real nature made this thing. Yes, so I really didn't know where to place mine. I just had a general idea from reading about them. But I'm going to show you where I place them now, so you can get a good look and a good idea. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Okay, the placement. So here we have this would be the north facing window, which is the least light, or the opposite side of where the sun is in the sky. That's the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere, your north would be your most sunny position, and your south would be your least. But because I'm in the northern hemisphere, it's the opposite. It's the other way around. So the south is the most sunny. So here we have that being the north. This is the west. Of course, the sun rises, it goes all the way around, and it'll arrive to my west window in the afternoon. And that can be anything after 3 o'clock, 3:30 or 4 o'clock, for about an hour. And even then, I have this netting that I've put up to dampen the light, even in the winter. These plants are about, I don't know, 30 centimeters away from the window. This window is quite a small window, as you can see by my hand. It's not that big. In the summertime, I will move my plants here, because I don't want them to get any direct sun. Any direct sun will just stress the plant out and cause the leaves to not grow or form properly, also make them wrinkle and die back on the tips. So at that time I will move Makoyana to here. This one I will move over here to get it away from the direct sun, so it'll still be in a bright position. And once again, you can see my thermometer, and it's reading about 13 degrees. It's just 50 Fahrenheit, 52, 53 Fahrenheit. It's really cool in here. Like actually, if you grow cymbidium orchids, if any of you grow oncidiums, cymbidiums, and all of those cool growing orchids, it kind of has the same requirements. So here you can see all this beautiful new growth that has come out as a result of all of these things that I do for the Calathea. Those leaves are massive. For those of you, for the humidity, I gotta say that the hygrometer here says it's about 65%. So you can say that it is quite humid in here. During the summertime it'll go over 80, 85. I think it can handle to about 50, no problem. If you live in an environment, probably in an environment where you have very low humidity, and we're talking about under 30, under maybe 30, 35, and it's around there, you might have a lot of trouble growing Calatheas, and they might not just do any good. So these might not be the plants for you, and you should just replace them with something just as beautiful, but is not so fussy about the humidity, which is unfortunate because we can't always grow what we want to, and we just have to go shopping and buy other plants. They can still give us the most satisfaction and happiness in the home. Yeah. Anyway, it's all about Calatheas today, and I hope that this helped you out for your for yourself, and that you get a few helpful tips too. And thanks for watching, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so that when I have upcoming videos it'll let you know. And we're going to be doing more videos about my cacti, how they're doing in the winter, and other house plants. I think I'll get back to the Phalaenopsis, so I'll do an update on those. And anyway, see you next time, and enjoy your plants, enjoy growing them, and don't forget that growing, caring for your plants, wiping them down with a cloth is all self-care, and it shouldn't be something stressful. It should be something you enjoy and relax and take it easy. And once you get that frame of mind, you'll be much happier and you'll be a better grower. And yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. Anyway, until next time, see you. Bye.